Sorry about that, ladies. I was like so excited to go live. I didn't check my actual video feed was working, so it's all sorted. Hello and welcome to the challenge this week, how to encourage your husband without nagging him. I am so excited for this. I was telling my husband about it over the weekend, and he very graciously listened, and I told him, listen, right off the bat, I am not speaking from a place of perfection. If anything, I'm speaking from a place of just humility, because this is not something I grew up naturally being like really good at. So I'm going to share from my life this week. I'm going to do it in 5 parts, and it's going to be good. I'm going to share some raw stuff. I'm going to share some tips that have helped me along the way, because the good news is where I started is not where I am today. So welcome again. Just going to do some quick housekeeping, and then we're going to dive right in. So in case we haven't met, my name is Tara, Christian wife, homeschool mom of 10, almost 11 children. And I have a heart to help big family moms, 3+ kids, to overcome their struggles and grow in God's grace. So that's, doing a monthly challenge is part of what that is. And this was the popular demand that I ran a poll in my Facebook group, Big Family Moms, Overcoming Struggles and Growing in Grace. And they asked, you lovely ladies asked for this one, bar none. So we can all relate, right? So just so you know, I am going to go live 5 times this week instead of my normal 3, but at the same time, 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. There is a giveaway running. I do this with every challenge, super fun. So how you do that is, first you got to be in the group. And so you can comment on this video, even if it's just like, hey, hi, I was here, and comment as well on the post I'll be putting around 1 o'clock this afternoon that ties into today's live video content. So there's 2 things every day. Comment on both. You're in the giveaway, okay? But you got to do it 5 times for the whole week. So, and if you're catching this later, that's totally fine. Like if you're catching it later in the future, like after the week, the giveaway will be closed. But if you're just catching it later and the week is still on, we're going to go, finish it up on Friday, announce the winner on Saturday. Then you can still absolutely go back, watch the videos, do the post, leave comments on both, and you're in the giveaway. Be sure to take some notes. If you're serious about overcoming this struggle, or at least making a measure of progress to encourage your husband rather than nagging him to get results, then I highly recommend you really engage. Watching these lives is one of them. Getting the action item post this afternoon, number 2. But all in all, you know how it is, right? We're only human. We can only retain so much in our memory banks, but writing it down engages more of our retention, and it helps you say, okay, this is the one thing that applies to me, right? Because I'm going to give a lot of information, but some of these things more than others will apply to you, particularly your situation right now. So I highly recommend just maybe devote a journal if you do that, or a notebook for the week, so you can keep coming back to that day after day with the live videos and the posts, and get the most out of this so that you can grow in God's grace and encourage your husband rather than nagging him. So that's it. The housekeeping's done. Let's dive right in. So I met my husband in high school. No, I was not the girl who grew up planning my future, naming my children. I just, it was like a shock to me that I had a boyfriend at all by the time I was 18, and I had no idea the future in front of us. We weren't Christians. We were saved by God's grace. We were 21, married shortly after, went off to Bible college, started having kids, and that's a whole other story. But here's the deal. When it came to communicating with him, I mostly just did kind of what got results. And I was pretty much just copying the model that I grew up in, in my home, like anybody else, right? This is how my mom talked to my dad. This is how women, in my life, a lot of the matrons, the aunties and so on, speak doing. This is definitely what I saw in TV growing up in the West, with a lot of TV and movie and celebrity culture. So this is kind of what formed or informed my view of how women relate to men, particularly in the context of marriage. And I kind of cringe when I think back to some of the epic moments I've had when I've nagged my husband and just worn him down to try to get results. So before we really kind of dive into this week and answer the question of like, hey, Tara, how do you encourage your husband without being a nag? Well, I'm going to lay some foundations. So these first 2 days, I'm going to spend some time kind of just laying some foundations. First, we're going to talk about what is a nag. What is nagging? You'll be like, oh, I know exactly what it is, because you've probably done it, as have I, here in good company, like I said. And then we'll be able to build onto the how to encourage versus nagging. So right off the bat, there's this verse in Proverbs that is so penetrating, that speaks specifically to the nagging. You may have heard it. It's in Proverbs 27. It goes like this: a continual dripping on a rainy day and a nagging wife are the same. To restrain her is to restrain the wind, or to grasp oil in one's hand. Like, good luck holding her back. When she's nagging, she's gone. She's like the wind. She's like oil in your hand. You can't hold her back. She's gone. And I'm like, oh, that's really penetrating. There's a lot of Proverbs in the book of Proverbs that are very like crystal clear, right? Really get to the heart of the issue. And for me, like I said, growing up, I grew up in a not particularly Christian family, not knocking my parents, just being real. That's what I grew up in. And that's how I started my marriage and how to relate to my husband. I still had, and I still have, a lot of transformation to happen in my head, right? To get out some old patterns that aren't serving me well, particularly as a Christian, so that I can be, like it says in Romans, transformed by the renewing of my mind, no longer conforming to the pattern of the world, right? Then I can know the good, pleasing, and perfect will of God as it pertains to marriage. And my role in particular, will not be speaking to the husband's role this week. I'm speaking to the wives of our role. So, because we have a propensity to nag. And nagging, as I understand it, is like kind of a scolding. And it's really easy if you're a mom, because we're in mom mode all the time, right? All the live long day. And I have that authority. It's right that I would speak sometimes more sternly to my children in correction and encouragement, but I would relate to them as a mother does to a child. And it can be challenging when my husband comes home, right? And kicks up his feet and starts playing on his phone. For all I know, he might be checking his emails. It can be really easy to speak to him, to relate to him in mom mode still, and really speak to him like a child. I've done it. Oh my gosh, it's so embarrassing. This is going to be a raw week for me. So like I said, you're going to get the real deal. And I might go from like huffing, puffing, just some of the body language cues of like, can you read my mind as I huff my way through the room, huffing or puffing, sighing, little whining, little just sort of like indirect comments that I'm like, are you reading my mind? Are you picking up my sarcastic tone? Can you really read and interpret what I'm saying? So this, for me, is the range of nagging. And nagging can escalate. And it can definitely build up over time with the frustration, the hurts, the what's underneath it all that led me to choose the choice to nag. That stuff can build up. And it ultimately, and I'm going to be real, it can lead to some pretty epic meltdowns on my part. And it has. We'll get into that tomorrow. So now that I kind of think about it in a calmer moment, try to be more objective, I really see it as a venting. Like, I'm feeling feelings right now, and I'm just going to blow them out the side at you, husband. And like I said, they're oftentimes indirect, not really a very direct, like, hey, would you help me with the kids because it's 4 p.m. and I'm feeling it? Instead, I'm just kind of like, did you have a nice day? Well, you look comfortable. I'm not saying what I'm saying, am I, right? So for me, that's nagging. You're probably like, oh yeah, I've been there, done that. Totally know what you're talking about. And really, I'm just kind of chipping away at him. And I mean, he's a grown man, and sometimes he can see what I'm doing, that I'm not handling myself very maturely in that moment. And like I said, we've grown in God's grace. We've grown in our communication. I'll share the whole story as the whole week goes on. But I see that I'm violating the golden rule when I do this. I'm not treating him the way I would want to be treated, with like, just say what you mean and like say it nice, okay? Because human nature, right? Outside of the heat of the moment, you and I both know that humans do not respond to shame. In fact, we'll go quite often the opposite way, just to assert our autonomy, because we are free agents created in the image of God. I have my own will, and I typically do not respond to being condescended to or put down. In fact, I might just rise up, right, and be like, watch me. So understanding that as an adult, as a human being, as a husband and not my child, this tactic of nagging, it not only doesn't work, it's counterproductive, and ultimately can be the slow tearing away, like Proverbs also talk about, where the woman who tears apart her home with her own bare hands. Can you see that? Like brick by brick, right? Piece by piece, chipping away at my husband's morale, at his self-esteem, at his sense of worth and love. And over time, this can really, really take a toll. So it's not just, just little moments. We can overlook these little slights, these moments as husbands and wives when we're not our best selves. This kind of stuff can get serious. This kind of stuff, to be honest, can lay the foundation of tearing a marriage apart. So I'm going to dive into it this week. Like I said, I'm going to share very honest with you. I just wanted to start today by saying, what even is nagging, really? To differentiate it maybe from full out outbursts of anger, which I think nagging can lead there. It'll definitely pave the path. And this is set up for that kind of blowout because it's really in the realm of the emotions. And I've been so guilty of this. So I'm going to share more tomorrow, a little bit more foundation stuff, and then we're going to get right into it. And I will share with you some practical ways that we can absolutely be more encouraging towards our husbands rather than giving in to the habit we may have picked up in our childhoods or we've just been practicing now in our marriages for years. It's almost 20 years for me and Gavin now of just nagging to get results. So if you're not already in my lead group, the big family, I just changed the name last week. So big family moms struggling and in growing in grace. So there you go. So overcoming struggles and growing in grace. I didn't write it down. So I'm like, oh, what was it again? It's a good one. I'm going to put the link. It's already going to be there. So if you would like to participate more actively in this challenge and you're not already in that group because you're maybe seeing this on my own personal profile, you are more than welcome. It's a group primarily for big family moms, but not exclusively. Though I would say, I'm going to be honest, it's for women. Okay. So there's that. So feel free to join in the group, and there's the giveaway. And there's the action item post if you really are like, I want to grow. I want to grow in this area and also see what other stuff Tara has been dropping down in the group because there's a lot more I share in the group than I choose to share on my personal profile because I don't want to clog up my personal profile with just this because I'm more than just this, right? So like I said, I've been guilty of this many times in the heat of the moment. Things have built up, my frustrations, it's been a long day. And like I said, my husband comes home, he just kicks back on the couch and I'm sitting there being like, are you for real? Things have led to more serious arguing and even crying by the end of the day. Not all the time, but it's happened. Not memories I enjoyed digging up, but I also know, speaking from a place of vulnerability, helps, right? That we can be real with each other and not necessarily stay in that place of my worst wife moments when I've let that nagging get out of control. But it's I can use this as a place to share with you because thank God for his grace. And I want to encourage you if you're like, oh my gosh, Tara, I don't want to just think about how horrible I can be to my husband and I can be such a nag. Have grace with yourself. I've had to have grace with myself. I've gone too far into shaming my husband and it's, escalated into defensiveness and argumentativeness. But ultimately, if I'm not willing to go there and be honest with myself and make a change, then how am I ever going to grow in God's grace so that I can improve, right? And no longer conform to that pattern of the world, but be transformed by the renewing of my mind. So I just want to encourage you, if you're feeling a little bit uncomfortable talking about this with yourself right now and thinking about it, we're going to move past that. We're going to make that our starting point. It's not going to be our ending point. All right. So I'm with you through this whole week. We're going to have fun. We're going to make it simple. Catch the post at 1:00 and I'll see you in the group. God bless you. Take care.